There have been 69 editions of the Champions League in both its formats, and by the sound of my voice, you can probably guess I haven't been around to watch them all. Still, throughout the 2 decades where I've actively watched football, I haven't witnessed a more compelling and exciting Champions League edition than in the 2018-19 season. It was a stacked competition full of iconic standout performances, comebacks, and upsets that marked the end of one of the most dominating eras in football. And today, I'm here to tell you all about it. So get yourself comfortable and join me as we explore the best Champions League season of all time. But before we start, if this isn't the first time watching this channel, please consider subscribing. We're so close to 2,000 subs, and with your help, I'm sure we'll get there by the end of the year. Now without further ado, let's get right to it. First of all, I want you to travel with me back to 2018. At that point, Real Madrid was still the team to beat after having won 3 Champions Leagues in a row, but there was a catch. Their architect Zidane had left the club, and their star man Cristiano Ronaldo had just departed for Juve. The same team he dispatched over and over again was now the Mr. Champions League club, so obviously La Vecchia Signora was seen as a top candidate to win the whole thing. And if we're going to mention Ronaldo, we can't forget Messi. La Pulga was determined, focused, and ready to conquer back the elusive title that Barcelona so desperately wanted for the past 3 years. So much so that he actually promised Los Culés that he would bring the trophy back to Camp Nou. With the millionaire City and PSG, plus the ever-dominant Bayern as the other candidates to win the whole thing, the stage was set for an incredible campaign. Cue in the group stage draw. A defining moment that can make or break many clubs' aspirations, but gladly, we the fans were the biggest winners. Almost every group was balanced, with only Real and City having accessible draws. Furthermore, just think about the crazy amount of dream match that we had. Ronaldo facing his former club Man United, 3 historic clubs from various eras squaring off, a battle of the best attacking forces from that period, with Neymar and Mbappe facing Salah, Firmino and Mané, Inter making a comeback to the Champions League after a 6-year absence and immediately getting paired with 2 former winners and Tottenham. And before you laugh at the mere mention of Tottenham, let me remind you that almost every time these 2 teams had faced each other, they produced absolute bangers. On paper, things looked promising, and in reality, they were even better. Dortmund destroying Atletico 4-0 when Sancho was still seen as one of the hottest prospects in world football, PSG tying their match against Liverpool in the dying minutes of the game, only to lose with a late Firmino goal. Ajax and Bayern casually delivering us one of the most intense last 10 minutes of play in a 3-3 draw, and Real Madrid suffering 2 of their biggest European humiliations at the end of CSKA Moscow in the same group stage. First losing 3-0 at home and then 1-0 away while playing against 10 men. And to make it even worse, these were the only wins by CSKA in the entire group stage as they finished bottom of their group. It was an incredible group stage full of twists and turns, but when the dust settled, everyone who was expected to progress did so, and there weren't many surprises in what comes to the team's final standings. Bear with me though, because the group stage madness was nothing compared to what would about to transpire in the knockout rounds. The draw gifted us a couple of interesting matches like Liverpool vs Bayern or Man United vs PSG, but I would be lying if I said these were the most exciting fixtures in the history of the competition. However, never judge a book by its cover. Although Real Madrid had triumphed over Ajax in their home turf, signs of concern began to surface leading up to the second leg. Still, no one would have guessed that by the hour mark, Ajax would be winning 3-0 in plain Santiago Bernabeu, and that the match would end 4-1 for the visitors. The European giants, the team to beat, had just been dispatched in convincing fashion. While on the other end, everyone had now been convinced that CR7 had made the right choice when he left the Spanish capital. Since after being beaten and mocked by Simeone, Ronaldo won the match by itself with a hat-trick and once again made every Atletico fan cry in frustration. The 2 biggest matches on the card were also a great spectacle. Man United turned a 2-0 deficit around with a penalty kick goal in the last minute of the match, and Liverpool withstood the Allianz Arena hellish atmosphere to solidify themselves as one of the contenders for the title. But I can't move on to the quarters without mentioning the most evenly contested match out of the entire round of 16, Porto vs Roma. I can bet my channel that almost everyone watching glimpsed past this one, as there were simply not many exciting players to watch, but if you decide to spend 120 minutes of your life watching this banger, I'm sure you weren't disappointed. This one was a battle for the ages, with Porto attacking like madmen and Roma defending the best way they could. Still, you had so many shots that almost went in that could have ended the match for either team, but in the end, it was a penalty kick from Alex Telles in the dying minutes of extra time that won the game for the Dragons. And just like that, we were down to 8 teams, and once again, the draws looked predictable. Liverpool were facing their favorite victim, City should be able to breeze past Tottenham, Ajax impressed against Real, but Juve looked like a different animal, and Barcelona looked much better than United, who were on a terrible run of form. But while Barcelona and Liverpool easily progressed to the next round, City and Juve experienced dramatic second leg games that culminated with their elimination. The first is considered by many one of, if not the greatest Champions League match of the modern era. City were trying to come back from a 1-0 defeat in the first leg, and that motivation provided the fans a back and forth match with 7 goals, where Sterling shined the brightest, but despite his best efforts, his last goal was deemed offside and Spurs were the ones who progressed. In the other match, we witnessed a masterclass by Ten Hag, who proved to everybody once and for all that their win against Real wasn't a fluke. So after several months of upsets, drama and crazy comebacks, we were on to the semis, and this time, we were already guaranteed an unusual finalist. Ajax and Spurs were paired against each other, meaning that one of these Europa League dwellers would have a story crack at Champions League glory in an era where the underdogs rarely progressed past the quarters, while Liverpool and Barcelona would surely deliver a match for the ages, as despite the Reds' impressive attacking prowess, this one was Messi's trophy to lose, and after an emphatic 3-0 win in the first leg, that only became more apparent. This time though, 2 years after they plotted one of the greatest comebacks in UCL history, Barca were now on the receiving end. Fueled by Anfield's iconic atmosphere, Liverpool won 4-0 with the winning goal originating from a slide corner kick by Trent Alexander-Arnold. In the other match, we'd also have a comeback of epic proportions. Ajax looked destined to return to the Champions League final 24 years after their last appearance, since at halftime, the Dutch Giants were leading the tie 3-0 on aggregate. But what they didn't count on was that Lucas Moura was about to have the second best 45 minutes of his life after his honeymoon night and score a hat-trick that would take Spurs, the eternal butt of the joke, into a Champions League final. For the first time in history, every English fan had to keep their mouths shut when it came to Tottenham. And despite Liverpool looking like the clear favourites, we are now expecting another crazy bout. After all, by now, we had kinda grown accustomed to comebacks and upsets, but unfortunately, this final completely contrasted against the whole vibe of the tournament. The last 30 minutes were decent since Tottenham eventually decided to attack and press high, but Liverpool were rock solid and managed to seal the game with a late Origi goal. Ultimately, despite the boring final, the 18-19 UCL season still lives up as the best edition of the modern era. You had iconic standout performances, shocking results and dramatic comebacks. Even if you ignore all the madness, this Champions League will always be extremely significant as it marked the end of Real's dominating grip and kickstarted England's era as a top country when it comes to club football. It was the beginning of the end for Messi and Ronaldo, and ever since this happened, football's throne when it comes to clubs and players is still very much for grabs. And that is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed the ride. Leave a like so that YouTube knows you want to watch more content like this, and subscribe so you never miss the most interesting football discussions, stories and top 10 lists. If you have time on your hands and want to watch another tournament breakdown like this one, click the video on the screen. Thank you for watching until the end, I appreciate you and I will see you soon.